let's talk about the web of wrongdoing. We definitely need to keep talking about this. There will be time later to reflect on Real Madrid's game and so on. But the thing is, well, anyway, especially because new things keep coming out, right? Now, the explanation from La Liga. Let's see who actually believes it. It's unbelievable. Just like when they try to justify themselves, right? Mbappe's blood wasn't shown on TV because there was no clear shot. Sure, of course, of course. That's why we had a guy in the stands, because this was recorded by a guy in the stands with his phone who saw it perfectly. He could clearly see Mbappe was bleeding. I mean, the cameras that follow the players from any angle can't find a spot to see Mbappe's blood. The doctors, when they get close there. But if we always see everything, someone will also say, no, it's just that. And then on top of that, they even do it with the ENG cameras. I mean, then they make reports where they give Real Madrid players a funny voice and I don't know what else. And they tell the behind the scenes stories of the matches. Careful, that's something else, because those are the independent cameras. They're called ENG, which aren't part of the broadcast feed. That's something else. I say this because there will be reports and you can clearly see it, but I still don't believe it, and those can't be used in broadcasts. Even so, I don't believe it. I don't believe that every little detail gets picked up. That when they've wanted to send off a Madrid player, I don't know, they've scrutinized certain actions and so on. Even if those are replays, it's impossible that none of the broadcast cameras saw even a little bit. How are they big? Like when Mbappe was bleeding or when they cleaned his blood? Damn, he's lying there. I mean, isn't there a camera from above that can see that? Or from the field level, they're covering him, but not all the players are covering him. There's no huddle. It's not like when Ericsson, the poor guy in the Euro Cup that won in 2021, whatever it was that happened to him on the field, and all the players gathered around him. And it's also happened in more situations on soccer fields with players who've had problems like that, where all the players gather around. They form a huddle there so the cameras can't get the image. It's not that. It's not that. Here there were gaps to focus on Mbappe. Damn, I've worked in television. Come on, what La Liga is saying is unbelievable. It says the league denies that anything was hidden and reminds us that Ray's elbow was replayed up to 8 times. Sure. Well, thank goodness. We should ask them now, but maybe they're still too busy defending themselves from this. Why? Against Mallorca, in Mallorca, that penalty for handball by Pablo Torre after a cross from Mbappe in the first minute of the match, why didn't they repeat that one? Or why didn't they repeat that penalty on Vinicius after he hit the post in the match against Celta at Balaidos? And so many others, right? Let's see what they say. They'll just find another excuse, right? Still, we've repeated it 8 times. There's no rule in the broadcast manual against showing injuries. That's why we were asking, but how can they not show them? Honestly, do you want to give them the benefit of the doubt? Do you want to think positively and say, well, okay, fine. If they say so, besides, it's a powerful enough image that any professional would say, damn, Mbappe is bleeding, please show it, right? But man, there are just so many. And taking these 2 examples of the penalty in Mallorca, the penalty in Balaidos, there are so many that who believes them anymore, but who actually believes them now? Well, anyway, that's how they defend themselves. That's basically what the statement says. At first, it's a lot, and then they say they rule out that there was any instruction for it not to be seen. And they tell Diario AS, which is the one giving this information, that there would have been no problem showing the image if they'd had a clear image. That's why I say you want to think the best. But the only image they had from the camera angle was one where the arm of one of Real Madrid's doctors covers the Frenchman's face and prevents you from seeing the wound and the blood. Look, I'm remembering now, and I'm remembering. I wasn't planning to talk about the video before. In the case of Pichu Cuellar and Luis Suarez, I was at BN Sports in Spain during the broadcast. It's not given, it's awarded. Barca's goal, that one against Leganés, there was VAR, and then we were at BN Sports. We received it minutes later during the halftime of the match, but minutes later, they said it wasn't in Spain, right? But we did have it there, which is why we showed it. But how many of you have that image? Well, I don't know, but it belonged to the broadcast. It was there in the broadcast. I don't know if they were hiding it in Spain, which of course I tend to think they were because we already know them, or maybe because it had reached us, but it had reached us. So how can we believe them now with this? It's just impossible to believe them now with this. Anyway, well, that's the explanation they give, and you just have to laugh at what we just saw, right? By this gentleman in the stands who captured it perfectly. Of course, that image they say they didn't have of Mbappe bleeding. Did Trujillo Suárez not see it either? Did Trujillo Suárez not see it either? Well, we understand that he didn't. If they didn't have it, they couldn't show it, and Trujillo Suárez didn't see it. Even so, Trujillo Suárez, who was in charge of VAR, and now we're mentioning other mistakes that remain unaddressed. This man, just by seeing the play, which was outrageous, the elbow was outrageous, he should have called a penalty even without seeing the blood. The blood is just extra. The blood is another matter. They hid it from us, but it only reinforces the fact that it was an assault, that it was a penalty. Let's also remember that in the first half, Mbappé had thrown his arm in a much less serious play. He hit him, not fully in the face, but a little lower with less force. They had called the foul on Mbappé, which was an offensive foul, and on top of that, a yellow card for protesting. I think it wasn't for the elbow. I think it was for protesting. Either way, it doesn't matter. If you call that one, you have to call the one at the end of the match. But sometimes to see the corruption, we have to look at plays from other weeks or other years. Here it is from the same match, just minutes earlier in the first half. It's incredible. Trujillo Suárez, I still think, should have called it there. If he had seen the blood, I understand, because of course, if he saw it, if he didn't see it, that's serious, precisely because of that. If he did see it, that's even more serious, right? But I think given how shameless he is, he might have thought he had no choice but to alert the referee, right? But of course, you start digging into who Trujillo Suárez is and where he was, and you say, man, in that slap to Bellingham, in that terrible slap to Bellingham, after he got his shot off, and Ramiro, Real Sociedad's goalkeeper, never touched him. Look, wait, I can't show this. You know that. Show it. That slap he gave him right in the face. Alvarola Rojas was on the field, and Trujillo Suárez was the VAR official. And Trujillo Suárez was in the VAR. He's messed us up a million times. He's the same one who was at El Sadar last year in the 2024 to 2025 Liga season, when they, in that February, stole the league from us like that. He's the one who thinks that what Camavinga did to Bodimir isn't negligible, so it's a penalty. The one who missed the penalty on Vinicius in the corner of the box also missed the handball after Vinicius's dribble, which would have been another penalty. It's the same one. It's this shameless guy. But wait, he was the VAR referee the other day with the play that led to Valverde's red card. When it was perfectly clear that Valverde was at a proper distance, the VAR guy didn't tell him, like, hey, this isn't a red card. But he's actually the guy who has worked the most Real Madrid matches on VAR out of everyone there. Let's see, wait. This is here on footballgate.com. Trujillo Suárez was appointed as a first division VAR referee in June 2024. After 6 seasons in the second division and refereeing only 36 first division matches, he has since become the VAR referee who has overseen Real Madrid the most with 20 assignments. But this is all part of the evil scheme I mentioned at the beginning. Everything is absolutely planned. Otherwise, why is this guy here? Why did they assign him for the Atleti match? Why did they put him on yesterday? After an obvious mistake like this, let's see what the CTA says now. They'll put him in again, you'll see, against Real Madrid. He'll still be the referee. The VAR official with the most assignments to work Real Madrid matches from the VAR room. Look, this is Mbappe's hit from the first half. I knew I had it somewhere. No, this, foul by Mbappé and a yellow card. And a yellow card for the Real Madrid player. This is Vitor Rice's. I was going to say exactly the same thing. No, this one was worse, Vitor Rice's. Plus, he grabs him down low. We saw it in the last video. He still hits him down low with his feet, and that's it. You can see the corruption just minutes earlier. The opposite example is right here, just minutes earlier. Not even in another match. Not even in another season. There's more I was going to tell you, because the web of evil has many actors. There's an actor, we talked in the last video, and that's Pavel Fernandez. This is a real tweet. I mean, it's still up since last night at 11:52 p.m. at 11:52 p.m. Spanish time after the match ended. And when we had already seen all 8 replays of the blow, and the guy says, we already saw it in the previous video, but we have to show it again because now you can see blood everywhere. It's clear that it isn't artificial intelligence. You can already see what happened to Mbappé. And the guy says that Vitor Reis seems to brush Mbappe's face with his arm. Mbappé throws himself to the ground as if he had taken a hard elbow. VAR wasn't influenced by the Frenchman's act. The tweet is still up, almost 20 hours later. This Pavel Fernandez later posts, because he has posted more tweets. Here he is with his nonsense. Partidos de hoy, en esta what a horrible shirt, but how well Javier Alvarola Rojas wears it. Look, I don't want to say things to Pavel Fernandez that people are saying in the replies to these tweets, because they're calling him all sorts of things. They're threatening him and all that. Obviously not. Obviously not. That's a line that should never be crossed. And I think that the people who are doing it are in the wrong. But this guy, I mean, to analyze these things, you have to take a long, calm look, because otherwise this is the law of the jungle and we all start insulting each other and we wish death on each other and so on. And that's not how it should be. But this guy should step down, of course, and I'm very respectful of people's jobs. But it's a tragedy when someone gets fired from somewhere. But come on, please, please. Let's see. Posting that tweet is unprofessional. But posting that tweet is unprofessional. Leaving it up 20 hours later, after seeing the blood, after seeing everything that happened, that's just being a bad person. That's being a bad person. And he's getting a publicly funded salary in Spain through Teledeporte, which belongs to the public entity Radio Televisión Española. His boss, the one who hired him for Radio Marca and all that, is Felipe del Campo. Felipe del Campo was my boss at La Sexta on Minuto Resultados. I've spoken to Felipe privately, and I've told him, but what is this, man? And he told me, does he see it? I don't. He says he sees it, but I don't. I told him, good thing you don't see it too, because wow. But just notice what kind of professional this guy has working for him. It's incredible. It's incredible. Well, Perez Burul on Radio Marca too. On Radio Marca. What would it take for this Varela guy to explode? Check out the sequence. It's really incredible. Check it out. Just a moment.
Contact. Yes, I saw it right away.
He was saying, he didn't call a penalty, Alfonso.
Why did he call a foul when he was left alone with the ball? Why did he call a foul? So you said it was a foul.
But tell me, in the end, what this actually is. What did Alvarola call?
I pay attention to the movement of the arm, whether the arm goes toward the face or not. Not that it just opens up, but that it swings out.
It's that he washes himself.
And then I pay attention.
It was Mbappe's head hit the elbow.
No.
So what was it? So what was it? So what was it?
A contact, but not a foul.
I don't know.
I mean, I see an arm that's there, but it's not thrown at the head. I think sometimes players are more focused on looking for contact so they can get penalties.
That's wild, right? Mbappé was looking to get his head split open. They would split his eyebrows since the wound was near there, right? Well, they tell him. But in the first half, you called it a foul. Don't you see it ends there? It's different. It's different because I say so. And they're the referee analysts from Teledeport and Radio Marca. From Teledeport and Radio Marca. Well, one is a public entity, the public television of this country. The other is one of Spain's most popular radio stations, also heard internationally, right? So, the network of former referees, many of whom haven't achieved anything, who were terrible, are saying these things to shape public opinion like this, even with things as blatantly contrary to the evidence as these. But wait, the issue doesn't end there. Which, by the way, well, anyway, and he's going to talk about the ESPN guys. But before that, because these are no longer professionals or former professionals in refereeing. These are just, well, idiots like Victor Lozano Nieto, who says, what a diver and what a bad sportsman Mbappé is. What a diver and what a bad sportsman. Posted at 11:01 yesterday. It's still up there, you know? That's what I'm saying. It's really unprofessional. Honestly, you can't even call him a professional. And that's what it says on his X account. It says, no to biased journalism. Damn. And of course, he's a bad person, or he has to be. You see, look. If they did this to one of my own, I might say, what a dive, whatever. Then I see him bleeding and I see what's obvious. I delete the tweet, but out of embarrassment. Or I correct myself and say, look, sorry, I hadn't seen it clearly, and so on. But the guy still leaves it up. I tell him this. It has to be ketchup, right, Victor? You never tire of embarrassing yourself. And this is how he responds, huh? After a bunch of hours, this morning already. And he says, you could have worked a bit more on the AI. He tells me, no, I thought at least you would get that far. That's what this guy tells me. You could have tried harder on the AI, but I expected you'd at least manage that. Honestly, you're such a fool. I show him the very clear photos and videos showing Mbappe's blood. Anyway, what I was going to show you at the end of ESPN is this. Don Amancio says, where did this happen? Hold on a second. Greetings. Here, Don Amancio said that on ESPN in English, they were saying it wasn't a penalty. One said it, then another. Luis Garcia, who played for Barça and Atlético de Madrid, was also my colleague at BN Sports, by the way. Sid Lowe says that nobody, and Sid Lowe was also my colleague at La Sexta. Sid Lowe, who now works at ESPN, said it wasn't a penalty, he says. I'm going to upload 3 videos where ESPN analysts say it wasn't a penalty, and another where another analyst mocks Madrid for complaining about the penalty. In the first video, Stuart Robson says that Mbappé dives to the ground. In the second video, Stuart Robson says that it wasn't really an elbow strike, that Mbappé was the one who charged into Vitor Rice's arm. Well, it's in English, and besides, it has match footage, so I can't show it to you, but I have reviewed the images. And indeed, he says the same thing that Mr. Amancio says here, who says, okay. Then Sid Lowe responds to him and says, well, here it says, what Luis Garcia says is incredible. Luis Garcia says in English that Mbappé does a bit too much for that to be a penalty. You don't know what he means. If a commentator can't explain himself, what can I say? What does it even mean that he does too much? I mean, not even watching the footage of the elbow can they admit it, but this is even on ESPN in English, which was kind of okay, because I don't even want to know what they said on ESPN in Spanish. Sid Lowe answers him and says, I don't know where the reply is. I saw it earlier. And he says, man, but you won't say that I said it, right? And he says, no, but I don't want that to come out. He says, you won't say that I said it. Sid Lowe says to him, no, I'm not saying that you said it. What I said was that it was said on ESPN and you told me no. So then the Englishman, good guy, Sid Lowe, this isn't personal, it's professional. He says to him, well, but I didn't say it. Well, but what difference does it make? Several of you on the channel are saying it with the most far-fetched justifications, and just because there's one who doesn't say it, then it's fine? No, sorry. I mean, here, I insist, there's a scheme here, man. There's a scheme that I don't know what it's about. But what's clear is that people, supposedly reasonable people from the media are denying reality. With this kind of explanation, La Liga's feed is telling you they couldn't find the footage of Mbappé bleeding when, you can't believe it, they've already done it. On other occasions, were those images hidden? Madrid should go all out on this. Perfect. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's about Madrid in the league. Sporting-wise, it's terrible. But there's something here. There's a component that neither during those 20 years nor now can be ignored, which is the referees. And besides, we'll do it in a sporting way. So later they say Barca only won that league because they were the best team. No kidding. In sports terms, they did more than Madrid, but still had the same old setup and asterisk. Back then, we knew they were paying a referee chief. Now we don't know what's going on. But it's not normal for La Liga, through the media outlets carrying its feed. Media outlets, former referees now working there as journalists or commentators, with their opinions being very important. They're professionals in that field and are speaking on major media outlets. They deny reality, telling you your eyes see one thing while they explain something different. Look, the older I get, the clearer it is to me that coincidences don't exist in this life. So, leave me your thoughts in the comments. I hope everything goes well for you. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel. Please comment, share, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.